Hi, I'm Fox with FoxeoGames, and this is Doom for the PC. No, not Doom. Doom. I really wish developers would stop naming sequels the same as the original because it just gets confusing. And speaking of that, the original Doom was released in 1993. Needless to say, it revolutionized gaming and jump-started a new genre of video games. While it wasn't the first-person shooter, it was one that started the craze. With literally hundreds of first-person shooters to choose from today, is this 2016 iteration of Doom worth your time? Let's find out. As always, we begin with the PC port, which is the only version of the game I'll be covering. I am very happy to report that there is no shortage of options here. There are a variety of gameplay and user interface options, as well as fully rebindable keys and controls for mouse sensitivity. If you're one of those psychos who likes inverted mouse controls, that option is here as well. You can also use a controller and choose from one of 6 different button configurations. There are separate sliders for music, sound effects, and voice, as well as a master volume slider and subtitles option. And then there is a plethora of graphics options to play with. Borderless windowed mode is present, a very nice feature I appreciate but rarely see. You can choose which monitor to use as well, and that's good that they were thinking of multi-monitor users like me. The list of options is vast: VSync on, off, or adaptive, various anti-aliasing choices, motion blur levels, chromatic aberration on or off, field of view slider, and nearly 24 more options in the advanced tab. These include resolution scaling, low, medium, high, ultra, and even nightmare settings for a variety of things like shadows, lighting, decals, textures, reflections, particles, the list goes on. You have to do a little finagling to get that nightmare option to show up, so check the PC Gaming Wiki linked in the description. It's plainly obvious at this point, but just about everyone should be happy with the PC settings in Doom. It even has a colorblind mode, and that's awesome for those that need it. Major props to id Software on this one. Well done. As for performance, I can say that on the latest NVIDIA drivers, as of the release date of Doom, the game runs ridiculously smooth on my system. With virtually all settings at either high or ultra, I was getting well over 100 frames per second at nearly all times. This game is incredibly well optimized, at least it is for the hardware I'm running. Check the video description for my full system specs. For those of us with 144Hz monitors, this game will make you appreciate that purchase. It also runs great with G-Sync. In summary, I'm really impressed with the PC port of Doom. As for graphics, Doom looks great, both technically and aesthetically. Some of the textures are a bit plain when analyzed closely, but with all the running and gunning, who has time for that? There's a fairly decent variety in the levels, and there are some pretty cool vistas to behold as well. The Mars overworld is a little barren, but that makes sense because Mars is actually pretty barren in real life. At least I think it is from the photos I've seen. I've actually never been there myself, but you probably already knew that. The space colony is mostly metal and feels like the inside of a spaceship at times. Without spoiling anything, let me say that there are other locales with unique aesthetics to add to the variety. If I had to make some complaints, I would say that there are sometimes too many particles and effects on the screen at once, and some of the areas look too much like many of the other areas. The graphics options also allow you to change to a gritty rendering option or a cinematic one. You can adjust a few settings to fine-tune it as well. The sound effects in Doom are generally pretty awesome. While some explosions and guns sound a little weak, the rest of the effects are solid. I understand why they made some of the effects a bit quiet. It's because you're going to be holding down the button and shooting for long periods of time. The grunts, screams, and death cries of the demonic hordes of enemies are all great, and the atmospheric effects really set the tone for the game. The music is another story. It's not bad, but the tracks are all generic driving beats with grunge guitar and lots of bass. Like many modern games, the music is context sensitive. When not in battle, there is generally no music at all. It isn't until the enemies show up that the music kicks in, and, well, we'll talk more about it later. Suffice it to say that you won't hear memorable tunes here, just atmospheric and driving beats. As for story, it's actually a bit more extensive than I expected. You wake up on Mars, chained to a table of sorts. You break free, start killing demons, and quickly discover that humanity's efforts to harness the powers of the demon realm have gone horribly wrong. And who could have imagined that, right? There's more to it with a few named characters, but the occasional efforts to make it go deeper are fairly predictable and of average quality. There are some moments where it seems like they're trying to communicate something bigger, but you probably won't care any more than I did, which was very little. As for gameplay, Doom takes the original old-school first-person shooter formula and builds on it with some modern elements. You run and gun with constant fast movement. There is no sprint feature here because you're always sprinting. Circle strafing works, as does simply strafing back and forth. You don't take cover and you don't wait for regenerating health or shields. There are none. Instead, you pick up health packs and shield packs, just like in the old days. If you run out of shields, you're out until you find more shield packs. If you run low on health, you'll stay low until you find more health drops. There are also some health restoration points which feel just a tiny bit like Metroid in that you stick your suit-covered arm in the unit to regenerate your health. Doom does adopt some modern game features. You can unlock new weapon mods, power up your suit, and equip runes with special abilities. You can find or earn points and items to accomplish these enhancements, while the runes require entering a special arena and accomplishing a particular challenge. There are also challenges you can perform as you play through the levels, such as achieving a certain number of headshots with a weapon or finding X number of collectibles. There are cinematic glory kills in which you can perform a special killing attack when an enemy is weakened. Enemies will flash blue when they're vulnerable and orange when they're both vulnerable and you're close enough to perform the killing blow. The glory kills vary from enemy to enemy, and there are generally multiple different types of glory kills for each enemy. Unlike the original Doom, the new Doom features a lot of platforming, complete with jumps and even double jumps. There's a lot of platforming here, with most levels having numerous layers of verticality. If you jump against a ledge, you will automatically grab on and pull yourself up, which is a common mechanic in games like this. It's pretty fast, and you can even upgrade your suit to climb up faster. Colored keycards are back, and progression depends on finding the right keycard to keep moving forward. The game features a detailed, rotatable 3D map, and I found myself using it at times to figure out where to go. I didn't get lost very often, but when I did, the map was pretty helpful. Like most modern first-person shooters, you interact with many objects using the E key. This includes doors, computer terminals, buttons, and even a few levers. There are secrets to find, including collectibles, so if that's your thing, well, it's a thing in this game. There's a whole lot more I could talk about, but what's the verdict? I think the new Doom is awesome. It's incredibly satisfying to play, and it puts to shame most of the other first-person shooters out there today. From the very start, you're moving and shooting, and you rarely ever stop. When there are moments of exposition, they're either very brief pauses in the action, or they require no pause whatsoever. You can just keep moving and ignore the story altogether if you want to. The blending of retro FPS combat and level design combined with modern upgrade systems really works here. I love the complete lack of regenerating health and shields, and I don't miss cover mechanics one bit. Not at all. This is precisely the way I like my first-person shooters. Non-stop, fast-paced run-and-gun action with lots of item drops and tons of weapons to choose from. Forget that 2 weapons only nonsense. I want to be able to switch between all the weapons I've collected. And that's what's really cool about Doom. You can pick and choose which weapons you want for which enemies. Are you facing a really powerful, slow-moving brute? Knock him out with the rocket launcher. Trying to take out some fast-moving targets? Use the combat rifle's zoom mode. Are there a whole bunch of weak enemies clustered together? Throw a grenade, or maybe unleash the power of the game's 2 different shotguns. It's up to you how you want to play and which weapons you'll favor. While I was skeptical of the cinematic glory kill system, I have to say that they've implemented it in the best way possible. In fact, instead of disliking it and finding it a disruption to the game's flow, it adds to the gameplay in a very meaningful way. You can hop from one enemy to the next, performing multiple glory kills in a row. They can be used to avoid damage as well, since you're pretty much immune during the animation. The chainsaw is also a nice touch, as it allows you to quickly restock on ammunition if you're low and don't see any nearby, as any enemies that you kill with it will produce a ton of ammunition drops. One thing the game is missing is a dedicated punch attack, something you'd have to fall back on in the original Doom if you ran out of all ammunition. While you can use a melee attack in the game, it's accomplished with a dedicated key and uses your current weapon as a sort of blunt instrument. Instead of completely running out of all ammunition, the basic pistol has infinite shots, albeit fairly weak ones. I think this was a good decision. Given the game's enemies and flow of gameplay, being reduced to melee only would be miserable. The difficulty on the Hurt Me Plenty setting was good enough for me, and I died quite a lot, given that I was mainly just brute forcing my way through the game with not a lot of skill. I'm really not that good at first-person shooters. But highly skilled players may wish to start at a higher difficulty, and players who don't want to be challenged should choose the lowest setting. The visuals complement the gameplay and story, telling you most of what you need to know. The destruction and dilapidation of the Mars outpost, the nightmarish beasts and barren red landscape of Mars, it all comes together magnificently. The sound effects are generally spectacular as well, and everything really hits its mark with near perfection. Everything except the music. As I mentioned earlier, the music is primarily context sensitive and pops in during combat segments, and the music in Doom is the weakest, most disappointing part of the game, and it's very disappointing. If it weren't for the lack of good music, this would be a near masterpiece of game design. The original Doom and Doom 2 featured some amazing songs that many people still enjoy listening to today. These songs continued throughout the levels as you played, allowing you to enjoy some awesome, albeit derivative music. And yes, we all know they virtually stole the basic beats from popular heavy metal bands, but the new Doom's musical score is just a handful of these kind of driving, energetic beats that have no real tune or melody to them. It just serves as a background beat during combat. It's deeply disappointing, and not a single track in the entire game has any inspiration behind it. But despite the mediocre music, Doom is an amazing experience overall, and it is unquestionably now one of my favorite first-person shooters. If you enjoy the first-person shooter genre, then Doom is a must-play title. I hate paying the full price of $60 for a game because I'm cheap, but I don't regret it here. It was worth it. Oh, and yes, I know that the game has multiplayer and a map-making mode, and I plan to address those in a follow-up review. So, what do you think of the new Doom, and how did it compare to your expectations? Do you think it does justice to the Doom series? Please let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like the video if you liked it. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, and check the video description for links to my Let's Play channel, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and all that other good stuff. I'm Fox with FoxeoGames, and I'll see you next time.